Quarantining with my boyfriend has definitely expedited this relationship. We got to see each other in our purest forms. We're not taking each other to dinner. We're not trying to show off to each other. It's just me and you.
More love igniting. Hey guys, I'm Andrea Gunning.
And I'm Ben Fetterman.
And this is Dating Diaries, questions and confessions. So one of the biggest things for me and the biggest takeaways personally in this pandemic has been getting a real lesson in what matters in life. Without the distractions, that's been, I think, one of the biggest takeaways and that I'll hold on to forever.
I think it's been a real values clarification, completely. We've talked about it before, but now that we kind of have this injection of hope that's going through our society, where do those values stand? Are we throwing those to the wayside, or are those going to be values we continue to hold true?
I mean, we've been living through this lesson for over a year, and I think it's going to stay with people for a while. And I think from the two people we'll hear from today, they learn what matters in life and what matters in relationship. This is one of the best dating stories I've heard in a long time. It's a good reminder about what matters.
I'm Amanda. I'm from Philly, and I work at a media agency for pharmaceutical advertising. And my love story started the day before quarantine started. I was out at the bar the night before Philadelphia shut down, and I met a guy. Well, I had met him briefly about like a month and a half prior, but like I wasn't interested. I see him and I'm like, okay, I kind of remember him. And he was friends with one of my friends. So we just kind of like started talking that night, and he was like really drunk.
This doesn't sound so promising.
So it's like, I don't know if I'm into this. We'll see. He came home with me because his friends left without him. He gets back here and it's me, my sister, her boyfriend, and we're all just like hanging out, like listening to music, having a good time. Keep in mind, this man's 6'5", so he's like humongous. And my sister's boyfriend started calling him Tree. Like, he was like, this man is a tree. So all night, I didn't actually know his real name. So we only called him Tree. And then he was just like too drunk. I sent him home. I was like, that's the end of that. That was cute.
Well, maybe the end for Amanda, but Tree had other plans.
He ended up texting me the next morning, just being like, hey, so nice to meet you. And from there, we just like kept talking, mainly on Snapchat a lot. And this is like corny, but the Instagram filters where it's like the questions above your head, that was like how we got to know each other, because there wasn't really that much to talk about because we're doing nothing all day. So it's like, you can't be like, hey, what'd you do today? It's like, hey, I just stayed inside. So we just like did these filters. It'd be like, when was your first kiss? Or like, what's your favorite movie? Like stupid stuff like that. But then also like, what's your biggest pet peeve? Your most embarrassing memory? And one of them was, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? And mine is fish food with Ben and Jerry's, which is like a weird thing to like, I guess.
Weird? It's chocolate ice cream with marshmallows, caramel, and chocolate chunks.
Fast forward to the beginning of May. And he texts me, hey, I'm actually gonna be in the city this weekend. Like, I would love to stop by and like see your face in real life. And I was like, okay, like super nervous because I was like, I've only seen your face on my phone now for 2 months. He comes over and he has Ben and Jerry's fish food with him, and he's wearing a bandana over his face, so I can't even really see him. And he's like, I got you this. Like, I remember you said it was your favorite. So he came and just like, we did the 6 feet, and he was standing like at my doorstep, and we just like chatted for a little bit.
A man bringing you your favorite ice cream, standing on your porch. Where's Ben? I'm like cavelling right now. I might climb that tree.
Then through Snapchat, he would see that I would always go on walks. Like, that was my way of just exercising during COVID. So then he texted me 2 weeks later and was like, hey, like, would you want to go on a walking date? Like, we can have our first official date. And I was like, sure. So we had a picnic on Kelly Drive, which is like a scenic route in Philadelphia. So that was like our first official date. It was really cute.
Noticing things about Amanda and using them to woo her. Tree's got moves.
We both had a really good time. And then after that, he wanted to hang out again. We were gonna hang out with my sister's boyfriend. It was gonna be like a double date thing towards the end of May, like Memorial Day weekend. He came over, we all hung out, and we just like got really drunk. Like I made a fool of myself. I was like, this man's never gonna see me again. Like I woke up in the morning, he was gone. I was like, oh God, that's really bad. But turns out he just woke up at 5 a.m. on the couch and drove to the beach because he was gonna live at the beach all summer. So that was cringe. I was like, I just ruined literally this whole thing.
Tree, whose real name is actually Brad, wasn't gone at all. And when tragedy rocked her family, Amanda learned in a very harsh way that he wasn't going anywhere.
My sister's boyfriend suddenly passed away, and he like really stepped up. He came over, like made sure we were okay. And that turned into like our whole summer was grieving.
He died tragically. And what made it more confusing and devastating was that he had taken his own life.
We just like didn't see that coming. And then that was kind of when it was like, all right, like you're here for me now. Like this is more than just like funny on Snapchat, you know?
Amanda's attention turned to her sister.
We're still developing our relationship, so it was kind of hard to juggle. I obviously didn't want to be coupley in front of my sister, you know, so we had to kind of like balance that.
She was falling for Brad, but was protective of her sister. And they were all grieving.
It was like a really hard time for everyone. It was definitely challenging. That's kind of what I meant, the suddenness of it. So this summer was just really difficult, and we weren't officially together. We're getting to know each other, but I'm also crying out of nowhere sometimes when we're hanging out. And he was so great. And that's kind of when I was like, all right, like you're the real deal. This is going to be more than just a little fling.
Unfortunately, grief was something that Amanda and her sister experienced at a young age.
Our family has suffered loss in the past, so it wasn't really our first rodeo either. We lost our mom when we were younger, but this is a love interest for my sister. Like they were madly in love. And he was like my best friend. We were really good friends in high school as well. And Brad had briefly met him that night that he came over. Actually, the nickname Tree has stuck. So my sister only calls him Tree still. And like all of my friends call him Tree. So it's kind of sweet that that like lives on, even though their encounter was so brief. At first, I was just kind of like, this fucking sucks. Like no other way to put it, like this sucks.
Brad understood Amanda's priorities, but he also provided a break from thinking about the loss.
So I spent most of the summer at the beach house with his friends because he had one with like 6 friends right along the bay. That was like my little weekend escape sometimes. I would be like, party all weekend, come home, and I'm like, shit, like still have to just get through this. Not to mention we're also working from home, so we're here 24/7. My sister and I also work together. Like we're super close. It's basically like we're twins, but we're born 4 years apart. And we work together. She was like, you need to get away from this too. Like I have other support. Like don't feel like you have to be here 24/7, which I was very appreciative of.
So that time that they were able to spend together over the summer did it. They became a couple.
We become boyfriend and girlfriend. And yeah, the rest of the summer was just great. Met his parents, he met my dad and my brother. So things like picked up fast.
And Amanda learned that Brad might be an accountant by day, but he definitely had some other interests.
Brad was semi-TikTok famous. He's a really good dancer, and he went viral with his parents because they can dance too. So they like went viral in the beginning of quarantine. They were on Complex, and Oprah Magazine reposted them. It was like his big 15 minutes of fame. My sister's boyfriend loved his videos. It was just so sad, and even now we're like, it just sucks that the 4 of us can be like together all the time, because I think they would have been great friends.
After the summer beach share, Brad's shore group didn't want to go back to their solo homes, so they rented a place in Arizona for a month. And Amanda joined for a few weeks.
The last night we were there, he told me he loved me.
At the risk of sounding like a huge sap, I think Brad has loved her from the very beginning.
I spent Christmas with his family, Thanksgiving with his family. I was staying away from mine because of COVID. My dad's a little older and a little more susceptible of getting sick, but his family took me in like I was part of theirs, and we had a great time. They're fun people, love to dance.
And now Amanda wants to experience everything with Brad.
We haven't gotten to do normal couple things, like even going to a concert or like a sporting event, karaoke night at the bar, which is something I really want to do.
Tree is the real deal. And in the worst of times, Amanda saw the best of him.
You're not used to guys just like manning up and being like, yep, I'm gonna like take care of this girl. Just his kindness and his reliability. Never once has he said he'll do something and hasn't done it, which is not something I've ever had in the past with men. Consistency is just like really attractive.
I love this story so much. We need to get this trending, like get yourself a Brad, you know?
We haven't done this yet, but Brad, like,
Just bravo, bro. Bravo.
like clap it up. It is so easy in this situation to just run. I can't imagine the loss that family was feeling, and they've gone through loss. When I met my wife, literally the first 3 summers we were together, her family had to bury grandparents.
Ugh.
That is not easy for any family. It was just successive loss. And, you know, you're in a position where you're meeting people at a time where they're really hurting and grieving. I've heard this from Jen. I've heard this from other people. Presence and consistency matter.
And she said that. She was like, he is the most reliable person I've ever dated. He does what he says he's going to do, and that's really attractive. And at the end of the day, that is one of the most attractive things about another person. It's just, are they going to show up? And there's so much to enjoy about courting and dating, and he made it so easy.
Yeah.
Like coming over with ice cream. Ugh, fucking so cute.
That was a blip, and he remembered that. I mean, it's those little things, right? Like, they're doing Instagram filters to get to know one another.
He was consistent, he was persistent, and he was reliable. And I think that she went from being like, he's okay, like not really giving him the time of day.
She didn't know his name.
To swooning. But yeah, courting, dating, all really exciting. Like that honeymoon phase is incredible. And then it just came to a crashing halt. And he was probably confronted with 2 choices, like give them space or show up and help carry their weight. And he showed up and he helped carry her weight with her.
Yeah, you know what gutted me, though, about this story?
What?
And honestly, when I heard it, I thought of you and Fran. Like, sisters, you guys actually are twins, but she thinks about her and her sister as twins. Like, sisters are obviously have a close bond, but her talking about how she thought that Brad and her sister's boyfriend would just really be great friends and the 4 of them would go through life together, like, that gutted me.
Yeah.
And like, they didn't even get a shot.
You know, for her sister to step back and be like, I'm grieving, but I have a support system. I want you to enjoy this experience. Like, a lot of people would be like, I need you here with me.
Mm-hmm.
But her sister gave her the opportunity to explore that and have that space.
Right.
If we learned anything, I mean, sometimes it's just about the guy that just shows up. They don't get enough credit. Vito is the kind of guy I would love to have as a friend.
I am originally from Brooklyn, New York. I'm 24 years old and I'm a nail artist in New York City.
He's fun, curious.
I have like just a really deep bond with Japanese culture.
But he was living a life that didn't feel authentic to him.
My dad works for a Japanese company, and long story short, when I was attending university at the time and I was doing computer science, I was interning at the company that he worked for. And this is like off Wall Street, very like conservative. One of my coworkers at the time, she had these like crazy nails, and I was just like, what is this? I was just so drawn to it. This was something that really caught my eye.
So out went computer science. Vito found his passion and his calling.
I just kind of took a leap and I left school and my internship, and a week later I enrolled in nail school.
Once he changed his career path, Vito's love life took a turn too.
I actually met my current boyfriend in this pandemic. At the time of lockdown, I was single, kind of actually getting out of, unfortunately, not the healthiest relationship. So just like rediscovering, what I wanted exactly. Me and this person kind of grew together, but we were kind of just noticing that we were different people. And I guess the only thing that was keeping us together was the time.
Vito put himself on the apps and realized COVID had changed things.
I had started to notice that the applications have changed in a sense where now they were kind of encouraging like more FaceTime. This kind of wasn't an encouraged thing before. Like me as kind of a millennial, I kind of find that FaceTiming or phone calling somebody, especially on the romantic end, was a little bit uncomfortable. So this was definitely something new to me.
Vito made a nice connection. He was off to the races.
He immediately wanted to FaceTime me, and I was just like, okay, like, sure. So, I'm just like, getting myself ready, like trying to prepare, thinking as if like that would change anything. I hop on the FaceTime call and he actually FaceTimes me with his friend. So it's a three-way. So I'm like ambushed by two people and I'm just meeting him for the first time. And I'm like, oh, hi, like, how are you guys? How is everything?
That sounds more like a party line, but it could also take the pressure off of that first meeting.
So I was like, this is so strange. Like, is this normal? But I just went with the flow. Like, who am I to say, this is weird? And I'm a friendly person. I like to talk to people. All three of us were getting along great. The third friend, she had left, and then me and him, we just were connecting and talking. I honestly am kind of grateful because maybe that made him more comfortable, and that kind of just like helped us have a little bit more of a deeper, meaningful connection later. So after our FaceTime, it really kind of just broke the ice.
There was romance brewing. They both felt it.
We immediately wanted to talk more and, meet up with each other. This is just being me brutally honest, me being totally open, but I'm pretty sure we met like a couple days later. I mean, we were quarantined for so long that I kind of felt, maybe other people can relate to this, especially if you're single or you don't have a companion with you. It can be very lonesome. You kind of do miss being around someone.
Yes, Vito. A lot of us relate to this.
We both knew at the time that we were kind of taking a risk, but I think that it was one that was calculated. When we met in person, that was even a awesome moment. Just being around someone and their chemistry is just totally different from FaceTiming one. I felt like the mood was definitely set when I came to meet him. He was already cooking. There was some wine. There was some music. And might I add, he is 14 years older than me, and so maybe that has something to do with that. But a part of me was actually very turned on by that.
Wine, music, and the maturity to plan the date. Hell, I'm turned on.
So my boyfriend is from Indonesia, so he actually was cooking some Indonesian chicken and rice, and it was something that I have never tried before. My background, I am biracial. I'm Black, Italian, and Puerto Rican, and so I'm very familiar with either soul food or Latino flavors. And the food that he prepared for me hit home just because it reminded me of my family, but also it was something so different that I've never tried before.
Vito was excited but cautious.
When it comes to dating, there is this kind of honeymoon phase. When you're first meeting somebody, everything is so great. I ended up spending a couple of nights here, actually, just because I didn't want to go back home.
The relationship developed quickly. COVID has that effect. It will light a fire under a new relationship or flame it out fast. Vito went back and forth for a few weeks. They FaceTimed and spent time.
After that, I just kind of took the leap and I moved in with him. Moving in with someone, maybe before the pandemic, would kind of be like a milestone or a goal that you would have with your partner. It's just not something you do with the random stranger that you meet, The
risks they took were more than COVID. Vito took the biggest risk with his heart.
Quarantining with my boyfriend has definitely expedited this process that we call a relationship. I'm actually kind of grateful just because we got to see each other just like in our purest forms, right? Like we're not taking each other to dinner. We're not trying to show off to each other. It's just like me and you, this is me, this is you, this is what I can bring to the table. This is what you can bring to the table.
And they've been together for almost a year now.
He has met my family, and I've also met his family via FaceTime. We're actually in the process of visiting Indonesia, but our trip has constantly been postponed just because of like the travel restrictions. We are fortunate enough to have understanding parents who accept who we are because, that isn't always the case for everybody. In my last relationship, unfortunately, my partner, he was not out to his family, or there were a lot of obstacles that he was facing. And for a long time, I kind of felt ashamed and hidden and struggled with my own insecurities. But I think by me being confident in myself and being strong with my identity helps other people feel strong within themselves and in their own identity. So I think it's so important that we learn from each other and just kind of accept who we are.
They're in a groove, but still figuring it out.
With us living together, there has been many more trying times than, the average time span of, a traditional relationship.
Vito learned his partner has his own habits, his own ways of doing things.
And for example, I think that we had to navigate, how we acted towards each other. I like things being in order, but, maybe he'll just leave his jacket. And so a part of me would feel kind of like disrespected, but actually it was not the case. Like in his sense, he just got home and he just wants to relax and just put his jacket down. So, me understanding where he's coming from and understanding why he does the things that he does, I think that like helped ease any tension that we have. I think with any relationship, at the end of the day, we're on the same team. It's like us against the problem, not me versus you.
Listen, I am in full support for Vito, like pursuing his dreams, pursuing what makes him happy, what interests him. But I gotta tell you, if I dropped out of college and dropped out of an internship, my parents would literally murder me.
I'm sorry,
Murder
not just
me.
any internship, the internship at your dad's company that he clearly helped you get.
Murder me. I'd be dead.
But the kid found his calling.
Yeah.
How many people just put their head down and just keep on a Excel spreadsheet and move along?
I am all about like law of attraction and following your path and feeling your way through like what is right. And so he got out of his path that didn't feel authentic to him, followed a new path, and then better things started to come his way. He found love and it moved very quickly. But the biggest thing I want to focus on that I just absolutely adored is when he was talking about how he and his boyfriend are on the same team.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you live and move in with someone, you've said this a million times to me, that it's a bigger step than marriage.
Million times. I honestly believe it. There's a bit of a culture clash. Two different lifestyles. Like he wants things neat and organized in a certain way, and his person wants to drop his coat on the ground when he gets home and just lay on the couch and like veg out because he had a long day. Those worldviews, those habits, those things that are just so natural to us come into conflict in some way with the other person. And that's why I think it's the bigger step.
I mean, I would see something that annoys me and just react in anger or rage. Like, why can't you just hang up the GD coat? But what I've been learning and what I've been personally working on is just getting curious. It's like, why does he do what he does? And it's not about me and it's not personal, but like having an understanding of who the other person is and what they're bringing to the table and like their motivations and intentions. I think it was just such a simple thing. So many people are moving in with their significant other so quickly because of this pandemic. Do you think you should be able to move in with someone if you haven't farted in front of them?
No, I think that's a key step. Add that to the list.
Could you imagine?
The first time you're moving to...
What's your thoughts on this?
I'm thinking that boundary needs to be broken before you decide to move in with one another.
When I moved in with my ex-boyfriend, like, I didn't even feel comfortable, like, pooping in front of him. Like, I had to wait till he went to school.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It's a problem.
This is now your home, and you need to feel comfortable to poop in your home.
Is that a litmus test? Like, should we be encouraging people, like, ask yourself the question, do you need poopery to live with this person or not?
I mean, poopery is not a sponsor yet, but if they'd like to be, I think whether you have or have not, poopery is a good product just to have around, at least for the first few months. Dre, how do you feel about bringing a friend on a virtual date?
I thought it was cool. I mean, I think that the disclaimer would have been appreciated. Like, hey, like, I'm going to have my friend on, so it feels like more of a social thing and we can get to know each other that way. But for him to be kind of ambushed with a third person, it could be slightly off-putting to other people, but I get the sense that Vito he's just so fluid. He just goes with the flow. And he was just like, all right, well, let's just see where this goes. And it ended up being really great and really cool.
Right. I mean, this may be ageist, but when I heard this, I was like, I would expect that from the person who was 14 years younger, not the person who was 14 years older.
Same.
And that, honestly, I think if I was in Vito's shoes, that would be a flag to me. But like, as you said, he's in this place in his life where he's following his path, and like, clearly there was some sort, he was willing to be game with seeing where this would go and being cool with it, and it led to something beautiful. If you're like Amanda and you love consistency, then subscribe to this podcast now, because things are only going to get better.
And I'll just say it, next week will blow your mind. We'll talk to a guy confronting the STD talk. And I'll leave it at that.
Is that really better, Dre?
It's informative and educational, but it's a doozy.
Does it burn?
You'll have to listen and find out. Reach out anytime. We love hearing your stories. You can write to us at datingdiariespod@gmail.com or reach out at datingdiariesqc on IG. And until next week, stay safe out there, guys. This episode of Dating Diaries is dedicated to Cody. This podcast is hosted and executive produced by me, Andrea Gunning. Executive produced by Nancy Glass, Ben Fetterman, and Carrie Hartman. Produced by Julie Clark. Associate producers include Megan Paisley and Kristen Melchiori. Edited by Mac Daggett and Matt Delvecchio. Special thanks to Natalie Thomas. Music by Mybe Music.